For Creamer Media's Polity, I am Shannon de Rehove. My Vote Counts organising committee member David LePage speaks to me about the My Vote Counts campaign. Why is a campaign like My Vote Counts necessary in South Africa, and what objectives does it have?
My Vote Counts is an organisation started by members of existing social movements and civil society organisations, currently mostly based in Cape Town, but from around the country as well. And it really comes down to one word, which is accountability, and the amount of accountability we have in our politics in South Africa at the moment. And as a consequence of the lack of accountability that I think most people will agree is there, the relatively poor leadership that we're also experiencing. So My Vote Counts is a campaign for two specific measures to restore accountability to South African politics, particularly parliamentary and electoral politics. And those two specific measures are a new electoral system that gives us direct control over who represents us in Parliament, and a complete sweeping reform of party political finance. At the moment, party political finance from private entities, astonishingly, is completely unregulated. Most countries, there is at least transparency over political party funding, so you know exactly where the money is coming from. In South Africa, our party political funding comes from two sources. The government does provide some direct funding to political parties, but then there's this vast area of unregulated finance, private finance. And we know that there's been worries over issues like the arms deal, Oilgate, the Hitachi deal for Medupi and Kusile, where the ANC stood to benefit directly in many of those instances. But the ANC is not alone in being compromised by the current arrangements. The DA has also been caught short a couple of times. And in 2005, when IDASA took political parties to court, asking the courts to regulate on political party finance, at that stage, all the political parties stood up and said, we don't want transparency. So this is by no means all about the ANC. It's across the board that we need openness. And we would say in My Vote Counts that we need mostly state funding for our political parties. Smaller parties and new parties, there may need to be some flexibility. But for large parties, there should be 100% transparency about where the money is coming from, how it's being spent, and to exclude special interests and influence from special interests. We should have only one set of special interests in South Africa, and that's all of us, voters and taxpayers.
Why do you think South Africa needs electoral reform? And what are the most important changes that you would like to see made to South Africa's electoral system?
It's important to remember that the current electoral arrangements weren't intended by the framers of our constitution to continue past the 1999 elections. They were interim arrangements that were set in place. What we have in South Africa at the moment is 100% proportional representation. That's a system that gives enormous amounts of power to party bosses, because MPs are dependent on the party bosses for their positions. We as voters aren't able to go, oh, I don't like that particular MP, I'm going to vote him out next time we have an election. We have only one choice, which is for the parties that we do or don't want. So in 2002, the government itself appointed an electoral task team that said there's a significant lack of accountability in our politics. Once again, a new electoral system will not be a magical solution to this lack of accountability, but an electoral system that gives us a mixed system of constituencies and proportional system as we have it at the moment would go quite a long way to redressing that balance. So what we're saying as My Vote Counts is that we want something along the lines of the recommendations of the 2002 electoral task team, which was for a multi-member constituency system where you would have some measure of control over who is voted in particular constituencies. And then there'd still be an element of the party list system to restore overall national proportionality.
How successful has the campaign been so far?
We're still a very small campaign. We're just starting to get going. I mean, My Vote Counts had its founding meeting in July, and we're attracting interest and attention, but we've still been laying the grounds to expand far more nationally next year, and working in collaboration, hopefully, with organizations like the Right to Know campaign and many other civil society organizations.
How can ordinary South Africans become involved in this campaign?
Please go to our website, sign up there, indicate your level of interest, whether you want to be involved just as a volunteer or a supporter or as an activist, and we'll add you to our lists and get you involved as quickly as possible. We're on Facebook, we're on Twitter. Follow us, like us, and we look forward to enjoying your support and working with you in the year to come. My Vote Counts is a campaign that we hope will reach sort of significant levels of success very soon. We're prepared to go to court if need be to challenge the government on some of these issues. We've received legal opinions already. It's a serious campaign, and with, I think, very widespread support. Most ordinary South Africans really understand that we're dealing with a serious accountability deficit in our politics and that our democracy needs a real reboot. And hopefully this will be a good, solid step towards that.
Thank you so much for your time. That was David LePage, Organising Committee member of My Vote Counts, talking about this campaign.